welcome back to All for United WFC. It says match reaction in the header, which would assume we're going to be talking about a match, which we will do. But as you will know, there's a lot to discuss. I was having a quite nice drive home yesterday. I thought I left LSV, saw some people after the game, had a nice chat. It was a nice little game. And drive home, and all hell broke loose by the time I got back. Online, and all kinds of stories. So, of course, we're going to start with that and everything else. There's obviously a lot to discuss around that particular topic. We will have Karish joining us. She'll be about, 10, 15 minutes or so, but she'll hop on as well to make this a four-person panel again. Let's quickly go around and see how many of us. Charlie, you good down there?
Oh, sorry, I lost the unmute button. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Glad to see you two chaps. It's going to be an interesting show tonight. Obviously, not just an all match reaction, but lots of other bits and pieces that we need to get our teeth into, as if it were. So yeah, really looking forward to the discussion points this evening.
It's such an interesting something way of putting it. I think, Barry, for yourself, you good over there?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thank you very much. It's just Man United puts you through the ringer. Done it every single weekend without fail, whether it be the gentlemen or the lady ballers. Either way, it's an emotional roller coaster.
It certainly is. I think, yesterday, like I said, was just a chaos of things. The actual game we're going to be talking about in about 10, 15 minutes' time, obviously United 2-0 against Leicester, wasn't actually that much of an exciting game. But we did get some excitement. Well, I say it's not excitement. It's there's other words certainly to describe it, but I would say controversy and all kinds of adjectives I'm sure that you can use to describe this. So let's take it all the way back. Not long after full time, Charlie Jace put a post on her Instagram story. Didn't directly mention United, but I think obviously it's now clear that this was aimed at United by obviously the agent story coming out and obviously a potential loan move to the NWSL. For those people who haven't seen it, it was in English as well, which I found interesting, which to me was, again, just another thing of this is aimed at United, because most other statements she's put out have not been in English. So, Charlie, what did you make of that? Because it was quite quick after full time. I think it was within an hour of the game finishing, so it was very quick that she wrote that. Just what's your thoughts on that? And I guess I'll incorporate all of it to start with. Just your thoughts looking at it as a whole, because this story developed very fast.
Yeah, she's historically put sort of semi-cryptic stuff out before, hasn't she? Whereas this is probably the most explicit she's been in sort of making her feelings clear about how she feels about the situation she's in at the moment. Clearly feels a lack of support and perhaps a lack of transparency with regards to where she'll be next from the club. Obviously, I don't know anyone who works for the club or who knows Jace, so I can only go on the things that have been released. And it's a shame if a player with such promise and potential and talent were to leave in this manner without sort of having the opportunity to make the impact that we would have loved to have seen her make. And I do say opportunity to make the impact because I think her opportunities have been limited since she joined United, to much fanfare, and some of that can't be helped, obviously, because she had a considerable bereavement in her family. But when she has been fit and ready, both physically and mentally, to play, she's maybe not got the minutes that she's wanted. So there might be that added frustration to things. We don't know under what pretense or promises she joined the club under. And she seems like the sort of player who wants to be playing all of the time and wants opportunities and hasn't had them really, for whatever reason that might be. And it might have been that yesterday, like wasn't able to go, unfortunately, yesterday, which was disappointing, but watching the game at home, even just as a player in the position that she plays in, particularly to watch that second half, there might have been that added frustration of the fact that she wasn't able to come on and make an impact, which she often does when she comes on, particularly when we were struggling in an attacking sense. We had limited options on the bench if you want to talk about experience and players that have played in those big moments. So I think maybe sort of the lack of opportunity at United, potentially a feeling of being mistreated and not receiving the respect she deserved. That's what I'm gauging from the statement she's made, and then coupled with the fact that the second half performance from United was woeful and she didn't really get on. It just seems like a melding pot of things and that's been building, and yesterday it came to a head, and she's made it really clear what she thinks, and so has her agent. which I kind of appreciate in the sense that everyone knows where they stand. There can often be a lot of cloak and dagger with these things, but she's come out and clearly said she wants to move on and be elsewhere. And I think if that's the case, the right thing from a personal point of view would be to facilitate that happening for her, which would be a shame for us as a club, I think. But what is disappointing is if perhaps behind the scenes things haven't been happening in the right way, and I will never know. I can again only base it on things that I've read, which is all second or third or fourth hand. But it'd be a real shame if it transpires that some of the things that she says has happened, and the agents that has happened have happened. And I worry they might have done, just because there's been rumblings of similar things before, although nothing's been come out and said transparently this is what's happened. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, really. I can only comment on second and third hand reports, but I always want to believe the club do the right things by the players, even if they're on their way out, and it would be disappointing if that's not what's happened here.
Yes, but you mentioned the second half against Leicester. Obviously, I want to come to that because I said to the people around me, there's something not right, because anyone who was watching that game knew that the attacking line needed freshening up. I know that we didn't have loads of kind of options on the bench, but for Jayde to get 5-10 minutes towards the end of that game, we didn't have our first shot in the second half came towards the 90th minute. That's how bad our second half was from an attacking point of view. So we kind of knew that was going to be something up potentially there. Barry, Charlie referenced it there in terms of, we all want to look at the club and hope that they're doing the right things by the players. There's obviously a lot going on at the wider club at the moment. I think everything is pretty much negative with, what Ineos are doing, the staff, being let go. There's a lot of cuts being made to foundation, the foundation, and all kinds of things going on. There's a lot going on around the club as a whole. So it is hard to look at a story like this and not think there is some truth in it. I always caveat agent stories are going to be very driven to get a player either a move or a new contract or something like that. However, I don't think they would have gone on the record if there wasn't something behind this, because why would they? This isn't a small agency. They're a well-respected agency in that respect. But Barry, same kind of question in terms of, as I said, this developed very fast. Within Jace's story, then Catherine's story with Jace's agent. Just your initial thoughts really on it in terms of, where does this leave us now? I think we're all kind of agreed. I will be very surprised if we do see Jason at United shirt again. I expect it to be gone by Friday, if I'm being totally honest. But what does that leave? Where does this leave us? What your kind of thoughts on it at the moment?
I am mentally torn around everything that's going on around our football club at the moment. It's really actually quite difficult, I think, to be a Manchester United fan at the moment. And we're not out there looking for sympathy, because we've had potentially one of the best rides of any group of supporters over a 20-year period that you could ever wish for. So it's not a sympathy thing, but it is really difficult, because it's not even so much about the glory, it's about the soul of the football club. And I just feel like the soul of Manchester United is gone. I don't know where it is. It's like it's been exorcised out of the body that is Manchester United, and we're just left with this carcass behind that's a shell of itself. And it's actually quite frustrating, I think, to watch. So that's my first point. I think my second point on it all is, you mentioned quite rightly everything else that's going on in the background. We have been owned by the Glazers now for a ridiculously long amount of time, and people have never been that pleased about being owned by them, but they have always made money available. I think what's become more and more obvious is that money has been made available, but it's dug us further and further into a hole without actually really giving us any opportunity to progress. And that, as a result, has trickled down to the women's side as well. You're looking at the way Ineos are at the moment and what they're doing to members of staff. You're hearing stupid stories now. I can't believe for a minute that all of these things are true, but things like, certain meals are being banned and you're only going to get soup and stuff like that, almost as if we've turned into, I don't know, what's his name? Matilda, you know, when they just have the slop and you can't have the cake that Miss Trunchbull is going to eat. It's just that side of it is all really quite bad. And at least you shouldn't feel an idiot for thinking you're naive enough, because actually I still believe that there is a possibility they are going to try. I think they're trying to do the right thing, just potentially going the wrong way about it. But the fact is, we don't have any money. Like, the money's gone. It's almost like, yeah, we throw politics in, but it's almost like when the Tories came in and Labour have just left a little letter on there saying all the money's gone, see you later. And that's kind of where we are right now. So, you know, we absolutely do need a massive reset in everything that's going on with our club. And I'll be honest, I think the whole narrative that goes around the club isn't great. And as a result, the austerity era, Shane. Yeah, exactly. And I just think that it leads to so many different things that with the way that social media is now, it's hard to know where the truth lies in any of these things. So as a result, it's really hard. I mean, we've got Twilumber in the comments at the moment, being his usual cheerful self, as if he is the god of all things. Not really accepting the fact that all he really is a moany old git who comes in here all the time, has a go at every single player, every single person. Skinner's bad, England's bad, this is bad, that is bad, whilst also not forgetting the fact that actually he's one of the biggest problems in the Manchester United fandom, is the fact that we've got people like that are just consistently having a go at certain players and certain managers and not really having any topical discourse on it. So when you hit situations like that, it's really difficult, I think, to be sat here looking at a situation like Jay's, which has far too many moving parts for you to be able to sit there and have a decent opinion on. Because I'm left in about 4 or 5 different parts of me. There is a part of me that is still Manchester United till I die, that will turn around and say, if Jay doesn't want to play for Manchester United, then see you later, goodbye. You know, that part will always be part of me. There is nobody in this world bigger than the club. So you're going to have that. You've got the human side of it, which is that she's gone through one of the worst moments of her life. And during all of this time, the club have attempted to get rid of her. And then you end up in this massive grey area. Why is it? Why is it that we have got rid of, or tried to get rid of, a player like Jay's? Now, I have my own feelings about Jay's. Do I think she's come out to Manchester United and proven herself to be one of the best right midfielders or right wingers in the league? No, I don't. I actually think that Jay's has been tremendously average in all of the games that she's played so far. She's had a few moments that really have done incredibly well. She's had some games where she's been fairly anonymous, and you get that. I think the fact that we're all sitting here talking about how well Celine did and how she came into the team, we all thought Jay's was going to be, you know, the big thing for us. And actually, it was Bizet that come in and done incredibly well on that right wing. So as a result, by having her in there, Jay's time has been limited. And I noticed that in your bit about the cutback, you started talking about Jayde Riviere. And, you know, you look at what Chase's agent is saying, just talk to the players, think about people like Guerrero. And the thing that matters for me when you start having these conversations is we're all talking about treating these players poorly, but all of them are players that haven't played. They've not had many games. And then you've got to start going into that. Why? Why are they not playing many games? Are they just rubbish? Were they not being bought by the manager? Have they been bought for the manager and he chose not to have them? So you end up it's like this whole conversation is just too big to just be boiled down to what's happened this weekend and the results that have come through Jay's and what's been said. So how do I feel about it? I think it leaves us in a horrific position. But let's not forget, I'm fairly certain there was a Twitter person, I can't quite think what their name was, that spoke about Jay's potentially going on loan during January. I can't remember who it was. It's all for United WFC, I think it might have been. But there was certainly something there that started talking about the fact that Jay's was potentially going on loan, and it didn't happen. So we know that it happened. We know that, you know, this hawking out of Jay's has happened. The reason is why. Why did we try and do it? Did we try and do it because we were feeling, you know, that it was better for Jay's to be closer to home, and that was us trying to be nice? Or was there other ulterior motives? Is it just that we didn't think she was going to be playing that much? I find it incredible that we might sit there and think we don't need another right-sided player. I mean, we've just had Aoife Mannion have to sit in at right back for Jayde Riviere, which is not a like-for-like swap. And we're going to be in a situation where if we don't have a visit, then, you know, we're only going to have two right-sided players because he absolutely refuses to put Maya Letizia over there. So I just think you look at all of those things, all of those moving parts that are happening, it's impossible, really, to come out of this with any side looking good. And let's not forget, I don't want us to be revising history. We can go back a long time. You've only got to go back to the FA Cup final and everybody else having, you know, cheery faces and everything going great, and Jay's looking like somebody stolen the last Jaffa cake. So, you know, let's be absolutely clear that these problems, I don't think, have been sat here just happening now. I think they've happened over a long period of time. And I think honestly, it probably is best that she does go, for her and for the club, but it's not a good look for us. You know, the way that this is coming out and the way in which, and again, it comes down to the fans and the constant talk about this player's gone and this player's gone and we didn't give them enough time. And, you know, we're second in the league and we're doing all right in the FA Cup. And it's so difficult because somewhere within all of this absolute defecation storm, there is just, without a question of a doubt, the truth. But none of us are ever going to know it because Manchester United don't like giving us any information. They keep everything so closely guarded that it's like trying to get stuff out of Fort Knox. And on the other side of that, we're just not in a situation where the players are ever going to come out and tell us the truth either. So, you know,
yeah, I think,
where does it leave us? That's where it leaves us.
I think just before I bring Keris in, she's waiting patiently backstage. Obviously, you referenced the post, and you know, I'm again, because I'm going to say this on it because I'm quite annoyed this week for various reasons. But you know, we did have a lot of people questioning what we put out, that there was a potential loan for Jace, and I say this a lot. You know, when we put stuff out on social media, it's because we've had it multi-sourced, and we were the only ones reporting it at the time. People were doubting that. That's fine. Obviously, now it's come out that is the case. How United went about that is still obviously to be seen. My personal opinion, I'm going to put that in thinking this is my opinion, not a thing I know, is that I think two things can be true. I think Jace probably didn't want to come back to England. I agree with Barry. I don't think this is a new thing. I don't think she's been happy here for a while. So I don't think she wanted to be here. And I think United have gone behind her back. I think both things are true at the same time, if I'm being honest, because this would not be the first time. And going behind a player's back and agent is not as uncommon as people might think. But it seems to be too common at our club, where we seem to be doing that. Now, like I said, we'll wait and see what the full details come out with and everything else. The bottom line is I think it's disappointing because we're losing out on, I think, a good player, and it does leave us a bit light in the forward areas now. Because I expect this to be wrapped up pretty soon, if I'm being honest. Albeit it's only a loan until the end of the season. I don't think she'll come back. I think that's pretty clear, that this will be a loan and a sale coming at the time. Right, let's quickly get Keris in. We're all in United shirts apart from Barry. I can't believe this. What's going on here? Barry didn't get the memo this week.
Well, as Michael
out of my
Chelsea
Uni of
kit,
Sheffield training kit. That's what happened.
There we go. Keris, I'll just come to you then before we go on to the game and other kind of things around it. Have you got anything to add in terms of what we were talking about in terms of this Jace story, where it leaves us, everything kind of around it at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think Barry makes a really important point, which is at the end of the day, the thing that I'm most concerned about as a person is Jace, because she's gone through, you know, the worst thing that you can go through effectively. So, you know, the first thing to say has to be that we've got to prioritise her well-being. In terms of the move away, yeah, I mean, as Connor's just said, like we reported, by which, you know, we we did report that Jace was potentially looking at a loan move in January. So I agree with you that, both things can be true. I think it can have been something that they were looking into and kind of with her blessing, but it could have also been that she wasn't necessarily privy to all the details of the negotiations, that she didn't know everything that was going on, and that she felt that was being kept from her, whether it was, whether it wasn't, I don't know. We weren't privy to any of the discussions. But I think, the major thing is she's clearly not happy at United. And I spoke to Mark Skinner about Jace at the start of the season, and he said the major thing with her is keeping her happy. She's clearly not happy. So I do not think that she is going to develop further and play her best football while she's at the club, in which case the best thing is for her to move. And if that's closer to her family, I think that's good for her. Although from a United point of view, obviously the major downside of that is that you feel we are very light in the forward areas without her. Very light. I mean, you saw the bench yesterday was we barely made. We made all the changes that Skinner was clearly prepared to make. Clearly wasn't prepared to put the kind of academy kids in. So that's slightly concerning. But if there's a player that doesn't want to be at the club for whatever reason, then I would, whether it's a valid reason or not, and I don't know because I'm not privy to the discussion, I would always rather that player moved on, because I don't think it does any good to anyone for them to stay.
I think the worrying thing for me potentially is that there seems to be a little bit of a pattern here. And I know, again, I'm going to shout out my article earlier. I know it's behind a bit of a paywall. If you could, there's a reason for the paywall. You can go on Flo's tweet. There's a reason now that the cutback stuff is behind a paywall. But I referenced the Vilda-Barisa story in that, and that is 100% a fact on that one. There's a reason I linked that to this J story, because as I mentioned, that this wouldn't be the first one necessarily, albeit different circumstances. I'm really not comfortable with how Jace is playing this out in public. I don't think that, well, not her agent is playing this out in public, because I don't think that does anyone any good. We've seen that recently with other players as well. But yeah, I think the bottom line is that there's probably an issue, if I'm being honest, with her and not settling, and potentially with the manager as well, because we've seen that with other players as well, with certain interviews and things like that. And I don't know, it just doesn't fill me with confidence that there's enough positive noise going on around the scenes. But I don't know. Like I said, I think the truth lies somewhere in between. I think, I do think the article was probably correct in some sense. I think there's maybe some exaggerations in there, which there always are, with these agent-led things, but I don't disbelieve what has gone on, because it just doesn't surprise me at this point. So we'll react more to it when it officially happens. As I said, I would imagine it's this week, if I'm being totally honest. Obviously, Tom Gary reported that Gotham FC are the team that are closest to her at the moment in advanced negotiations. I think there's a bit more of a story to come out about that, so I'll wait until that comes out when the deal's official. So we'll talk about it then. So we will move on to the game. I know that a lot of you want to talk about this J story and everything else. We'll do a whole hour show on it, trust me, when she does move on. As I said, I would expect it might even be tomorrow. I don't know, but it'll be soon, I would have thought. I will probably want to get this wrapped up before the weekend, and we go from there. Speaking of the game, Charlie, you mentioned this when we were talking backstage earlier. Just very briefly, we'll go around the panel, because we didn't into the lineup because we didn't really have much option. And when we saw the team come out, obviously a lot of players missing through injury. Anna was obviously out with illness. There's various things going on there. Lisa's still not back, although she should be back soon. I'm still not. So I don't know whether I fully believe that, because Mark said it was a short-term injury back in October, and that was 5 months ago. She's still out. But is there anything, Charlie, you would have done different with the lineup, or was that pretty much? I mean, that's all we had, right? We literally couldn't make any other change.
Yeah. I think that was to be expected considering the circumstances. I think obviously there's lots of chat about Miyazawa not playing, but she literally just flown back from the other side of the world like a day or two before. So it would have been careless for her, I think, to start the game and play 90 minutes. But it was useful to have her on the bench. So yeah, I think it was like saying the best we could do. Like, it was a really strong lineup. It wasn't like we were down to the bare bones. And like, I would have been worried if we'd had to start a load of academy kids, but we didn't. We don't, because we don't want to be doing that at this point in the season. The most disappointing thing for me, and we'll probably get to it, is that when it was not getting away from us, because Leicester were better in the second half. We were considerably worse. That maybe some of those younger players didn't get a bit of a chance near the end. But the first, the lineup is as to be expected. I would say there was no other option, was there really? It was nice to see Melvin start up front, and nice to see her perform well. I think she came out afterwards and said that she'd been sort of snatching at things and nervous in front of goal because she wasn't scoring. So it was good to see her put on a good performance for us yesterday.
Indeed, as the number 9 as well, which is something that we've not seen too often. Is there anything, Barry Kerris, on the lineup that you want to add, or can we move on to the first half? No, there we go. Right, let's talk about the first half then, because I can't lie to you. I'm really annoyed we didn't score in the first 10 minutes, because if we did, we'd have broke a record to be the first team ever to score in 4 consecutive WSL games in the first 10 minutes. We didn't. It was doing my head in. And Leicester players kept going down as well, and it was wasting time. The people around me would say, I was looking at the clock going, I wish that player would just get off the pitch. And we're wasting time. We've only got a few minutes to score here. So that really annoyed me, because I had the tweet prepped and everything, but there we go. It's gone from the drafts now. It's irrelevant for another 4 games unless we can do that. But so we didn't have a lightning quick start, but I didn't think we were dreadful. We did have a few chances. So Barry, I'll just start with you. The first half itself, obviously we got 2 goals, which I'll come to in a second. Yes, Mike, you got to have these things ready. Earlier was stood right next to him. I just kept looking over at the clock like we've got 2 minutes. Come on. I did, to be fair. I had a few things lined up, but no. Get it going. But Barry, I'll start with you. First half, we'll talk about the goals separately. Were you relatively content with the first half?
I'm relatively content in the general sense of things whenever we win a game. So as long as we won a game, it's hard to be too disappointed. I think you look at that first half, could we have scored more? Yes, we could. Should we have scored more? Probably. We'll obviously get to the goals, so I won't go too deep into that. But I think ultimately, the key thing is to go and get the win. And I think more so when you start looking at what happened with Brighton and getting that point against Chelsea that literally nobody expected to happen, except maybe Sean. Now that that's happened, you're sat there 5 points away from the team at the top. And I just know that had we not managed it, if that had been one of those Leicester games where it ended up being 0-0 and we didn't take advantage of that, that's the sort of thing that has happened in the past that's really cost us. So the fact that at the moment we've played as well as we have, I think in terms of getting the results is really quite important. So, am I content with the first half? Listen, we might not have scored in the first 10 minutes, which, by the way, Connor, I can imagine just how frustrated you were getting. But I've got to be honest, I love a stat. You've taken that to a level that I don't think I'm ever gonna reach in my life. I mean, I will happily sit there and be like, oh, but my day's never been ruined by the fact that somebody didn't score. So we can be the first team ever to score 4 consecutive games in the first 10 minutes. But it does give us a massive insight into your evenings, that's for sure. So yeah, no, I'm in my mind quite content, to be fair. I think, yeah, I'll take it.
You say that. I'm pretty sure it was in the program as well. Someone who bought the program can let me know. I'm pretty sure it was in there. But
did you tell the people in the program? Did you send it to them? Nudge, wink.
But no, I don't know why it was stressing me out so much, because there's a couple of other stats. I'm waiting for a certain player to get a goal or an assist, and then that breaks another record that just sat in the drafts right now. So I need them to, and one of them's turning. So if she can hurry up and get back, that'll be quite helpful.
It was in the program, Connor. You're right.
It was. See, there we go.
It was in the program, but I agree with Barry. You still need to let it go.
I will not let it go, because now we need to do that again. What's our next 4 WSL games? What, Liverpool, Villa? Who have we got after Villa? West Ham. No, Everton, West Ham. Possible. We can do it in those 4. And just hope that no one else does it. Kerris, how did you see the first half?
Yeah, I thought it was, dominant first half. I thought it was incredibly ironic, considering the fact that in the first 15-20 minutes they barely got out of their half, and then pretty much the second time they attacked, we then scored from a counter attack, having been literally relentlessly pressing them in their half. I thought the press was good from the start in the first half. I liked that we were willing to just take shots. Janssen and I think Tooney as well having a pop from the edge of the box. I don't mind that. The only complaint, I guess, just could have been more clinical. Could have had, the result even more sewn up by half time. Obviously, there was the penalty, which I'm sure will more the non-penalty, which I'm sure we'll discuss. Although there's not loads to say about it, other than it should have been penalty. But yeah, I thought first half was dominant, but we would have been left very frustrated had we done a sort of, as we did in the Brighton game, where we then allowed them back into it second half. I think had we been playing a team that was maybe had a bit more quality in their finishing, we would have been in real trouble second half. But that's the second half, so I'll leave it until you ask me about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll come back to that. You're right to bring up the penalty. I completely forgot about that. I tweeted that off All for United in capitals as well, because it proper wound us up in that corner, because it's the most blatant handball I've ever seen in my life. And the ref is stood right next to it as well. I really don't know how she missed that, because it's not by a body. It's right up in the air. That was horrendous. Anyway, Charlie, you got any thoughts on the first half? How did you see it?
I thought it was okay first half. I thought Tooney pulled the strings really. Are we going to talk about the goals separately, or can I just mention them? Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah, go on. You can talk about the goals if you want. If you want to lead us in on that.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought the first goal was brilliant actually. Tooney's through ball to Melvin Malard was brilliant, and the confidence she showed, drop of the shoulder, made the keeper commit and then slotted it in was brilliant. And then again, I think it was Tooney's vision playing that ball through to Malard and a well-taken goal by Galton. So it was fairly comfortable at that point. The penalty decision is just ridiculous. We could spend hours talking about the ridiculousness of the officials whose job it is to enforce the laws of the game, not enforcing the laws of the game at every level of football. It's atrocious. And even if the referee did have their vision impeded, there's two other officials at least who could see that was happening. Just absolutely bonkers. And no one's telling me it's not convenient that we weren't awarded a penalty and then Chelsea got an offside goal given. No one's telling me that's not convenient, are they? Just ridiculous. I find them really, really annoying, actually. But yeah, good first half performance. I understand why we started with the midfield three that we did. I still don't think it quite works. I think we said that from the start. I think there's too much of Clinton and Toon trying to occupy the same space. And one of them's going to have to back off and play in a slightly different area, in a slightly different role. And I think if it's probably going to have to be Clinton, because Tooney plays a number 10 role so well. But yeah, they were good, weren't they? I think we did miss the hustle and bustle of Turland. I think you realise what she does, and Keris is right. I think the press was good again. It's clear something they've worked on as a team, but I just think it wasn't as ferocious and didn't quite have as much impact as when it's Turland leading the line, in my opinion.
No, I think that's fair. I want to come back to that actually in terms of that one. Just very quickly, because we were just talking about the penalty. Someone said natural position. No chance. I'm sorry. Why? Why is our arm there? That is not a natural position. I mean, yes, you could argue maybe the ref's view. Obviously, we're kind of behind it there. Player in the way. Maybe. How no one has seen that. Everyone in the ground saw that. Even people I know that were sat the other side of East Stand, which is the opposite end of the ground, saw that. So yeah, I find that baffling. It's lucky it didn't cost us the game, really. We were kind of talking, the people around me that, imagine we go in 1-0 and that game kind of drags on and, you're looking at that as a potential, we could talk about it when you, I think.
Can I just say one thing? I don't know how to do this. If before the game match reaction next week, if Tulumba can get in touch with me and let me know exactly what he wants me to say regarding the players so it fits his narrative every time. Clearly we're not allowed to say anything positive ever about an English player. I get that now. I've got the memo. I'll make sure I never do that ever again. Okay? Just so we're all clear. You let me know who I need to speak positively about, and then I'll aim for them. All right?
I mean, they could always just start their own YouTube channel and stop whinging at people that are sitting here and doing it. You know, it's as if we're sitting there with a gun making people watch it. Can I just point out as well that is a natural position for the hand if you are Kevin the teenager from Harry. The old, oh, it's so unfair. At that point, he throws his arms out quite naturally at that, and that would indeed be a natural position. But I'm assuming she is not a pubescent chap of the age of about 14, 13. And so, no, that's about as natural as me with hair.
I couldn't imagine you with hair, to be honest.
No, me neither anymore. No. It's a strange old world.
Someone's gonna have to get some edit together, like a picture of you with, just crop my hair on top of your head or something like that.
I mean, I assume Barry did used to have hair, so maybe an old photo would be a bit more realistic rather than cropping the quiff. It's truly horrific thought.
I will just quickly say as well, Siobhan, we were saying it, all of us that kind of stood in that corner. It was really confusing. I think it confused Aoife Mannion at one point because she really rushed across, which didn't need to, but she was by the rugby line, not the football touch line, because she kind of shanked across and fell it almost as if you're trying to keep the ball in. But it was very confusing. On that one. And for anyone, this is only going to be, I'm so sorry, this isn't going to be relatable for people who were at the game. What on earth happened to the speakers during half time when they just completely either blew out or something, made everyone jump? I don't know what on earth that was about. And how loud it was as well. Why do they keep turning it up? It's like a rave at times, isn't there? So there was quite a few things that it was that noise really loud. Everyone either jumped or screamed around it. It was quite something. Anyway, it was just talk. Barry, it's over to you, isn't it, for the goal itself? Let's talk about the first one, and Mallard's one. So as Keris kind of said, it was first real counter attack we had of the game. And that one, it seems to be where some of our goals have obviously come from this season. But Malard kept a composure in front of goal to slide away.
This would be the sort of goal that I would be wanting Manchester United to score, insofar as it's one that we've literally created. And honestly, it one into the other and cuts through the entirety of the Leicester side as if they're not there. And it's so direct. It's sports direct. It's like literally 1, 2, there it is, Mallard's got the ball. But these are the sort of goals that we as a club need to see more of and do more of. So, I mean, I think it was Laetitia, but she gets the ball in the defence, obviously flies it through to the middle, and then what looks like Tooney knocks it through for Malard to just use a little bit of a shoulder, get herself in front of the defender. And at that point on, I think you're left in a situation where you look at that and you think, Malard, brilliant strength. My big question would be, are we not doing that enough for Turland? Because those sorts of balls through where you can get them in front and give her a chance to run one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I feel like she'd net a few more as well with that. So superb to see Malard take that centre forward spot, run through, took it beautifully, absolutely awesome. Probably one of the best goals that I think she scored. And what was really nice was to see the composure, and it just goes to show what she can do when she's got half a second to think about it. A lot of the shots that she's had that have been in and around the 18-yard box that we've been looking at so far have been snapshots, things that have happened in the blink of an eye. We've only got to think about the one that's still on the International Space Station from 6 yards out, because it's very difficult to get that level of accuracy from such a short moment of time. So I think to have this opportunity, run through, it's a goal. It's what we want. It's what we need our players to be doing. It's one that we've actually created and built for ourselves. Unlike the second goal, but I suppose we'll get to that.
No, absolutely. Because to be honest, I thought she held on to it for too long. Because she was running at the keeper, I was like, she's going to go around the keeper. Is she just going to run into her? What's she doing? Because she kind of just kept stopping. I was like, I don't know quite what she's doing here. But Keris, if you want to talk to us through the first goal, obviously Truth mentioned it there as well. I think one of you two mentioned this as well. She spoke about this in a post-match that she's been kind of stressing in front of goal, and explains a little bit I kind of guess kind of that erratic nature a little bit. But yeah, how good it was to see that. And also, do you agree with Barry that maybe like why aren't we necessarily seeing this when Turner's on the pitch? That that kind of splitting the defenders and playing the ball through the middle.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I think it would be remiss not to point out how easy Leicester were to pass through. Right, like we saw it on the second goal as well. I think it's Missy Goodwin gives the ball away. It goes to Janssen. She passes it to Toon. She passes it to Malard. She passes it to Leah Galton, who scores. It was so easy to pass through. But yeah, like that directness is really good. And having a centre forward who, I think we've got two centre forwards in Malard and Turland who are willing to sort of wrestle off a defender like that and try and run away from them. So I think we need to do that a bit more, where we try to hit their feet and see if they can just catch a centre back unawares. The manager was saying after the game, like, been challenging Tooney more to try and pivot the ball forward more quickly in the midfield. She obviously did that well. I thought Maya picked out the pass well to Tooney, and then she picks it out well to Malard, who I think does really well with the finish. The little dummy was brilliant. But I think, it's a fairly routine counter-attacking goal, but those are the sort of goals that we need to be taking the opportunity to score. Because what I really don't want, not to jinx it, what I don't want is to be level on points with Chelsea on goal difference at the end of the season, and then look at the goal difference and be like, if we had just taken some of those opportunities, like, we need to go into these games with the mentality of, can we get the ball forward as quickly as we can? And I thought that was what we did yesterday. Granted, Leicester made it easy, I think it's fair to say. But, I want to see us playing direct like that. And again, like, when we won the ball back for the second goal, it was like, I was direct again. It's like, okay, it goes to Janssen, goes to Toon, goes to Malard, who spots the run from Galton, who finishes. It's just simple. And yeah, they made it easy for us, but we need to be being direct like that.
No, I agree. And I think directness, Charlie, is kind of what we saw for the second one as well. That, I think it's Janssen that picks up in the midfield. I think it might go to Toon, but it's definitely Malard, obviously, that gets the assist for Galton. Erling said earlier on she didn't fall over. I'm pretty sure she did. She was definitely on the floor at some point when she scored. So keeping that trademark going. But do you agree with Keris there? The fact, we need to see this maybe a little bit more, that, kind of that playing through, because we can do it clearly. Tooney's got the ability just to play that quick pass. Obviously, we saw it with Malard as well.
Anyone
on that second one.
Anyone can do that, can't they? I think one of something that's me a bit disgruntled this season has been really slow passages of play and unnecessarily passing it around the back. And there is a time and a place for that when you're trying to control the game or take the sting out of the game, or you're under a bit of a pressure and you want to look after the ball. But I think there are times when we talked about being more ruthless, haven't we? Moving the ball quicker. And both of those goals happened because we either pressed really well, won the ball back, and then countered quickly, or we just played the ball quickly through the lines and we just spotted the run. And Barry's right. There's been times this season when Turland's been looking to make those runs, and if we can time it right to her, she'll also have success from that as well. So yeah, it's what you want to see more. I agree completely with Keris that there are still lots of opportunities missed. Like every game we come away from it and you think, it should have been 2 or 3 more to the good there. Because it could come down to that, particularly with top 3, and you can't underestimate how important it is for us to get in the top 3 this year. Probably more important than ever when you look at the Europa Cup competition that's coming through. We need to be there, so we need to be clinical, not gung ho, not be ridiculous and throw 6 or 7 players forward, but just move the ball quickly like we did today, play it through the lines, and then it's really difficult for teams to defend against that when you move the ball so quickly.
No, agreed. And I think Barry and just Keris just following anything you've got to add on the second goal in particular. And the fact, again, like Leah's, to be honest, I was critical of Leah's performance yesterday, but I guess you can't really argue the fact she is scoring at the moment. And, we need that because we're not necessarily scoring too many goals. But she is popping up with the odd one here or there to keep that goal tally ticking over.
That's Leah Galton for you. That's what she's been doing since the moment we signed her and got her into the club. She's never going to be the most prolific. She's not Bunny Shaw. But equally, she's not Jackie Gronin. She knows where the net is and she knows how to put the ball in the back of it. So I think there's lots to be said for Leah Galton. The second goal is how we score most of our goals this season. Once again, it just comes down to errors from the other team that we've pounced on and taken advantage of. And, Keris uses the term ruthless. We absolutely do need to be ruthless. But you did, I'm sure you said something about us needing to be ruthless. One of you wonderful ladies said it. I thought it was you, but it could have been Charlie. You both speak sense, so, it's a good thing. But the point is that we do need to be ruthless. But in order to be ruthless at scoring these goals, I'd rather we were being more ruthless at the ones we create under our own steam, rather than it constantly just being these mistakes. But if we are going to do that, that's what's keeping us in this title race. And yes, there is a title race. Like, I can't understand why anybody would be sat here watching this today and believing that there couldn't be a title race whilst it's still mathematically possible. We beat Chelsea. We're 2 points behind him. It only needs one mistake to be made up the top there, and all of a sudden, Sonia Bompastador's invincible, wonderful, super people. Right, I don't know. I'm really tired, Keris. I don't really want to be here tonight. I'm very tired. I'm trying my best. So yeah, I think the second goal, it was all right. It worked really well, but again, we picked the ball up from the middle of the park after it's been given away. The passes after that are brilliant. Malard putting it through, I think it was for Galton, and again, it was absolutely superb. So the way we're doing that and getting behind the lines and breaking through is really good. But that's two goals against a side that we could quite easily have scored 5, 6, 7 past if we were at our mettle. I'll be honest, if we finish the league and we level on points, we miss out on goal difference, I'm going to take that as a shared title, to be completely honest, because you can't all have the number of players of the ability that Chelsea do. You expect them to go out there and score those goals. I think if we got to a point genuinely where we finish second on goal difference, that's the most moral of victories I think we could possibly have as a club, when you consider everything else that is going on. We were sitting here talking about how negative it was at the beginning of the show, but at the same token, we're sitting here talking about the fact we could finish on the same number of points as Chelsea, and who in their right mind thought that Manchester United had a possibility of finishing top this season?
You can keep calling it a title race. The 100-meter sprint when Usain Bolt was at his prime was a race, but it doesn't mean that anyone else is going to win it, does it? Sorry to be the negative one here. I'm not convinced. Until we get within two or three points, I'm not having it.
Well, I'm not having this then, because you say you're not convinced it's a title race, but you're quite happy to sit there as if you're some sort of gambling addict over a 10-minute possibility of a goal statistic thing. I mean, like, what is wrong with you? Like, oh, well, that's not a real thing then until it actually happens. So whatever. It is a title race, and that's what it is. And that's what it needs. You can't be in a situation where it's all finished 3 games before. It's boring. Like, how are you supposed to mark it? It's no point sitting here talking about a closed WSL if that's what they're going to do and just constantly watch Chelsea win it. I mean, it'll be the 6th year. Like, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. So,
Chelsea fans maybe do, but no one else does. But yeah, I think Siobhan makes a good point. We did draw. I'm pretty sure we did, didn't we? It was 1-1. Was that last season or the season before? I can't. We definitely drew 1-1 because Maya Letitia scored.
We did. And I would just be intrigued to know how many people are calling for Sonia's head, having drawn to the absolute dirge that is Leicester. Where's that? Have you seen that?
You've got me doubting that whether we drew. I don't think we did draw to them last season, because it was the game we drew was when Gabby did her ACL, and that wasn't last season, was it? Or was it? No, it was. It was last season then. Yeah, because she missed.
Yeah, Gabby definitely tore her ACL early.
So yeah, it was last season. It was the start of last season because it was in between the PSG games or just after the PSG game that we drew. There we go then. So slight improvement on last season. Keris, anything to add? Second goal.
I forgot what we were talking about. Yeah, I thought, again, good to see us playing direct, but I thought Leicester made it really easy for us. There's no, if you watch it back, there's no pressure on Janssen, no pressure on Toon, not much pressure on Malard. It's a good, kind of explosive run from Leah Galton to get herself into that good position. But yeah, I mean, it's a good goal, but it was, I don't want to say gifted to us, because there is a situation in which, Goodwin gives away that ball and we do what the men's team probably start doing, because that was what I went and watched after I left Lee yesterday, and pass it sideways or backwards. And instead we passed it forwards, which was refreshing. And so, I mean, it's good to see us being direct, and hopefully we just need to carry that forward against the other sides now.
No, I'm assuming, Barry, you were laughing at this. If it disagree as well, I can't lie.
You know what? You spend hundreds of shows and you just mispronounce somebody's name once, and then that's it. It's game over. Never mind, Cody.
See, that's the beauty of live television. Make mistakes and errors on here sometimes. Keris, I'm actually going to come back to you first then, in terms of the second half, in terms of what you think went wrong as such, because albeit we still won the game 2-0, Leicester didn't pose masses of threats. They had a few shots, but there was never a shot I looked at and thought Fallon's done an amazing save. Then every shot was down the middle and right at her. But we had a bit of the ball, but we only had 2 shots. I think the first was towards the 90th minute, because I remember saying to the guys around me, I think, again, stat thing, that might have been one of the first times ever we've not registered a shot. I think Chelsea away this season was one of those as well. But I think that was shots on target rather than shots. This might have been the first time ever we didn't register a shot until late. I think it was around 90th minute. So what do you think it was that went so wrong? Because true saying that Leicester did make some changes, and it could have been that. But I still don't see that as an excuse. It's still 45 minutes for United then to react to what Leicester did and change something up.
No, so I agree Leicester's substitutions made a massive difference. There is probably a bit of tiredness from the international break. That's what Mark Skinner attributed it to. I understand where he's coming from. However, that sort of falls down a little bit when you consider that Mamiki, who was the player who really came on and I think changed the game, was scoring in the She Believes Cup final in San Diego like a few days ago, and got, I think Amanda Mikel said she got back to the UK like yesterday. So I think Leicester made some changes. The tiredness is something that I understand it as a reason, but I don't necessarily think it's a valid excuse for kind of coming off the boil as much as we did. I thought Leicester made changes in the midfield, which definitely made a big impact. We looked quite overrun there. I think we brought on Miyazawa to kind of try and combat that. I think we were very let off, to be honest. I think against a better side that puts away some of those chances, we're in real trouble. Like there's the one where Hannah Kane skies it over the bar from like inside the 6-yard box. Fallon made quite a few saves, but they were like training saves. They were straight down the middle. She did do really well at claiming crosses. I wasn't worried from their set pieces, their corners. I was not worried because I knew that she would claim it. I didn't think they test her. They didn't test her very much. In terms of what went wrong, I think a little bit of tiredness, but I think we have to be more adaptable than that. Obviously, we didn't have much on the bench that we could bring on, but I thought the midfield did not adapt as well as they could to what Leicester were doing, because I think that was where the battle was kind of starting to be lost. So I think the midfield could have been a lot more adaptable. Obviously, we made the change that we felt comfortable making in bringing Miyazawa on. But yeah, I'm not overly concerned by it because it was just the international break, because we've got so many players out injured, so we were limited. But it was concerning to see how much we failed to adapt to what they were trying to do. That was what worried me.
Yeah, I think the tiredness thing is interesting when you consider Mayer and Millie didn't play through internationals. Neither did Gabby. Janssen only played a little bit. I think Galton didn't either. Malard only played one game, and that was the first one. Celine, only came on for us. So I understand his maybe point, but I'm not buying that personally, because I just think there's enough players there that didn't play or didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going away to another camp and traveling and being in a different environment, having that sort of intensive training in camp and playing games. Whether even if you don't play many minutes, it is still tiring to go on an international break But I agree. I don't think an international break is really an excuse for sort of, his argument seemed to be that we completely ran out of gas. And I didn't actually think that was the case. I didn't think necessarily that energy levels were the problem. I thought the lack of adaptability was the problem for me. There was no one that I was looking at on that pitch being like, oh my God, you can tell they're knackered from playing 90 minutes 3 days ago. I thought we just failed to adapt.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. I want to come to the subs in a. That's going to be my next question when we talk about the subs and potentially not seeing some of the youngsters. Obviously, Jason Williams came on quite late as well. But Charlie, for you, how did you see the second half in terms of what maybe went wrong a little bit for us? The fact that we didn't register a single shot on target. Our first shot came in kind of around the 90th minute mark, and it just drifted. It was such a weird second half to watch, in my opinion.
I think there's a reason. I think a lot of our success came through the middle. I think there is a reason for that. I think when you look at this season, Aoife Manny's been a bit part player, and Gabby George hasn't played 90 minutes often since, don't know, I can't remember how often she was, but it seems rare that she's played 90 minutes since she came back from her injury. And I think we lost a little bit of attacking impetus on the wings due to sort of fullback position. So obviously Jayde Riviere is a massive loss as an attacking outlet. So not having her there meant a lot more came through the middle, but Maya did quite well with that, carrying the ball forward, I thought. I have to say as well, I thought Maya was brilliant. She didn't miss a single tackle, didn't lose a single duel, didn't miss a header. Like, she was phenomenal against Leicester yesterday. And I also think Gabby George, I just wonder if she'll really ever be able to play 90 minutes really against WSL opposition. I think we've seen frequently this season that Anna Sandberg has then come on and done absolute bits, hasn't she, every time she's come on? And we just didn't have that. Well, we didn't have that senior option yesterday for that to happen. And he clearly wasn't willing to make a change by bringing on a younger player who could have slotted into that position, which I think was a shame. But what Kerry's touched upon about being adaptable, that's probably, since Mark Skinner has come in to United, that's probably the thing that's cropped up season on season, is a lack of pragmatism when it comes to having to change things when the sort of the ebb and flow of the game is getting away from us. He sort of reverts to type, doesn't he, and will do the same things that he always does because he feels comfortable with that. And there'll always be arguments for and against it. That brilliant season we had where we did next to no substitutions, we came second. We any other season we would have won the title with the number of points we got a couple of seasons ago. Chelsea were just broke our record. We broke the record, and then they broke the record, which meant we didn't win the league with regards to points. But I do think it showed a lack of willingness to not even take a risk, because we were 2-0 up, and Leicester, yes, they had more of the ball and they had that one chance they played us over the bar, but apart from that, Harris is right, Fallon didn't look troubled by anything that was happening. So it was just disappointing that the game was allowed to sort of peter out once Leicester changed their game plan, and we didn't really have much of an attacking response to that. I think that was the biggest shame, because there were players available. Griffiths, just give her another go. She came on against Wolverhampton. She was in the right place at the right time and scored a couple of goals against them. Why not give her a go against Leicester 15-20 minutes before the end?
I think just while you've referenced the subs and the youngsters in particular as well, it's worth mentioning as well, like, because I saw a lot of this online about the subs and why, a lot of people wanted Griffiths to come on, as you mentioned, scored 2 when she came on against Wolves. I know it's different opposition and different circumstances when you come onto the pitch, but for me, academy players are always going to get almost like a free pass anyway. An academy player has got to do something pretty bad to get stick off the fans. I think you can have 3 or 4 pretty poor games as an academy player before the fans start kind of criticising you, because you give them that benefit of the doubt for the first couple of times they play and everything else. And in my opinion, someone like Griffiths, could she have been any worse than what we were currently seeing? We didn't have a shot. We weren't doing anything in an attacking sense. So for me, I don't know why Griffiths couldn't have come on in one of those forward areas, just something a bit different, just to give the fans something to cheer on. Because to be honest, the guys that I was, we just started talking about something else, and we're barely kind of watching what was going on, because it was just like we're not doing anything on that sense. And James makes a good point. Obviously, I know, again, different circumstances. Leicester are 2-0 down; they can afford to do that, and they're not really fighting for anything. Well, they're trying to stay up, but probably not going to get relegated. But even still, I'm just like, yeah, no, I would have personally, but I knew as soon as I saw that bench that it was just never going to happen, because it's just not what we've seen, in the last kind of 4 years. Barry, for you, second half. Oh my God. Second half, for you, what kind of, I don't know what happened there. When you go to speak and your throat's just like, yeah, you're not speaking. Just cut me off then. But, Barry, what went wrong for you in the second half a little bit, and again, kind of on the changes, and because I don't know when Miyazawa came on, but even that was later. Once it was 70 something. I don't want to get that. Yeah, 73, and then Jason Williams came on at 85. So pretty late in that sense. Obviously, the youngsters didn't come on either.
I mean, the obvious answer to your question is nothing went wrong because we didn't concede, and we won the match. So nothing went wrong. We won the game. The game was out of sight. We'd done everything we needed to do. But as with all good things, you can still sit there and look for what could have gone better. We ended up with 61% possession, which I think is what you'd expect against a team like Leicester. We had 500 passes to their 300 passes. I've rounded for anyone that wants to start getting gobby. And 10 shots were taken as well. And 2 of those were on target. We had 2 clear-cut chances and we scored 2 goals. So you could argue it was a clinical performance. We took the chances as and when we needed to. And that there wasn't really much riding on it. I get that we want to try and build up the goal difference. Of course, that would be a lovely thing. But yeah, in that respect, no, that nothing really went wrong. But what irks me is that when you can sit there and use that as an argument and say, well, there we go, like we say, Mark Skinner's led the side to another victory. But then you hear things being said there like Mark Skinner's put it down to the international break and the tiredness of players and such like. And then you're just left going, it was Ronan Keaton who once said, you say it best when you say nothing at all. And I think had he said Sweet FA, we'd be sat here right now going, okay, great, fine, it's a 2-0 win, lovely. So my question would be, as a critical thinker and an innocent bystander in this situation, is if somebody's tired, would it not make more sense to potentially bring them on with more than 5 minutes left? Like, I can't imagine anybody was sat there going, oh, Gaffer, thank you so much for those 5 minutes. My ankles were really appreciating that. Like, it's the most ridiculous bloody thing that I think I've ever heard in my life. Oh, yes, the international break's really taking its toll on people, but I gave them a whole 5 minutes. What? What? And the players that he's brought on, by the way, Hinata Miyazawa. I mean, nothing too special about Hinata Miyazawa. She was only the World Cup's top goal scorer, but yeah, why give her more than 17 minutes? Jay's, I mean, who knows? If Jay's been given 45 minutes, would we have had everything that we had this weekend? I don't know. I know nothing. Then, of course, Rachel Williams. If you can play for Man United right back for an entire game, I'm pretty sure you can bring on Rachel Williams for a little bit more than 17 minutes. I mean, she started the FA Cup final. These players are good players. Like, we do not need to be sitting here talking about these potential players. The ones that should be coming on and getting 5-10 minutes are your academy players. So someone like a Malard Griffith should have been coming on to play 5 to 10 minutes to be given that opportunity. That's exactly what she did against Wolves, and she netted a couple of goals out of it. Absolutely brilliant. That's what we should be doing. And I would argue that what went wrong is that if I'm the person that's got to tell Mark Skinner how it is that you do substitutions, then frankly, the whole world has gone to pot.
I agree. I was laughing actually at these comments.
No, now she knows who Ronan Keaton is. I'm not having that.
Even I do, to be fair, so I'm intrigued, Keris. Are you going to be the odd one out here?
Oh, you must know Ronan Keaton.
I recognise the name, but I couldn't tell you who that is.
Oh my God, Keris is turning to Connor.
Sorry.
See, it's not a film thing, really. So indeed. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm disappointed, to be honest, that we didn't see any of them. Just one of, Maris played. Why not? But anyway. There we go. This is how it feels to be me.
Well, no, explain who this is then.
You're on about the singer, right, Barry? I'm assuming there's not another Ronan Keating that you're referencing.
There's only one.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the lead singer of Boyzone.
Yeah.
He's now on Magic or Heart, one of those cheesy radio stations, sometimes with Amanda Holden. But Boyzone's been quite a big thing lately. With like
really good documentary.
I was going to say, haven't they just done a documentary with like Louis?
I mean, yeah.
When were they big though?
You've heard of Boyzone?
Yeah, I have. When were they big? When were they big?
When were they big? They've never been fat.
Probably mid to late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So there's your answer, isn't it?
Yeah, but you've heard of Queen.
I would probably say everyone loved a bit of Boyzone. I probably think Backstreet Boys were better.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely better band. There's better boy bands than Boyzone. I can't lie.
Yeah, I feel like we should go back to the football, but yeah, I'm not gonna be slandered for not knowing a band that were popular 5 to 10 years before I was born. Sorry.
Absolutely. Then you've never heard of ABBA or Queen.
That's different because
no,
they're
it's
good
not
bands.
different. It's the same bleeding thing.
Yes, it is. No one is putting Boyzone on a level with ABBA and
All right,
Queen.
okay. What about the Spice Girls? Have you heard of them? Spice Girls?
Huh?
Spice Girls?
Yeah, because again,
exactly the same era. Exactly the same era.
To be fair, I do agree with Kerry in terms of levels.
Follow better bands who have longevity. Yeah, no, I take your point about the kit. This is one of my dad's old kits because I gave mine away because it didn't fit me anymore and I couldn't afford a new one. So I do take that point.
To be fair, I said that because I thought, I hope he's not on about some like random actor or something that I've not heard of some favourite films.
Genuinely, Keris and Connor, if you ever have the inclination just for a laugh, if you look at Boyzone's debut on RT's Late Show, it is the most uncomfortable thing. You'll think it's a spoof. You'll think it's like a parody. Oh, it's awful. But they became the biggest boy band in the world off the back of that. Oh, gosh. Do you remember it, Barry?
Biggest boy band in the world, exactly. And just point out, they're the only people...
No, they did work at the time. They were at the time. They were at the time, Connor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the biggest boy band that's ever lived. I'm saying
I can't lie. When I used to DJ a lot, I used to get asked a lot of requests for songs and stuff like that. Boyzone never came up.
But why would they? When were you DJing?
Anything, weddings, parties, nightclubs, never came up.
But they won't because they just sang slow Irish ballads. Like they're not going to come up at a discotheque. Like twice the time you DJ'd and whether Boyzone were requested as being whether they had any success, you clown. Oh God.
I don't know how we got... I think it's Barry's analogy, what it goes on to that, but I appreciate that, Sean. I'm just hang about. What's this? DJ music all over, and that's why I said my opinion on Queen is right because
right. Let's just move away from your opinions on Queen and go back to the football because I'm not doing this again. Where were we up to? Some point in the second half.
We need to pick the match.
We're at the end, yeah. Player of the match here.
Okay.
So I'll leave the poll. I didn't even say that the poll was in the chat. The poll is in the chat, by the way. If you haven't already voted, vote on that. We'll go around the panel and I'll end it in a second. Hey, it was my choice to retire at the young old age of, when did I retire? A few years ago, 20, I don't even know, 23, 24.
Retired?
Yeah, retired.
Is this like how I'm retiring from football at the end of the season out of choice? From when my career on the university fourth team comes to an end.
I genuinely believe, Connor, that you were at some sort of wedding or something like that. They've asked to play Queen. You've got Larry saying, what do you want to listen to that crap for? And they've broken your decks or something. And you've just got, I can't afford to replace it, so I'll just have to make do. I reckon somewhere in your house, this is why all we see is your little jail cell that's over there, right in the corner in a cupboard. You've just got your broken decks, and you just sit there and remind them. And that's why you dislike Queen, really, is because it spoiled your dream of being like the next Fatboy Slim.
Maybe that's why I don't like Queen, because I'm so triggered by having to play it so many parties and whatever else. Just they were requested a lot. But yeah, sure, it's on something maybe. What Connor's an industry plan? I know Music League, which, like I said earlier, that's why I stand by my Queen accusation. Anyway, player of the match. Who's player of the match for everyone? Are we all going Malard, or is someone throwing a different name forward?
What were the other options?
Oh,
on the poll, it was Malard, Toon, Clinton, and
Well,
Letitia.
it'll be no surprise to Twalumba that I went for the English centre back, Maya Letitia, because I thought she was brilliant. I thought she carried the ball really, really well. She almost came in and supported the midfield at times. She won. I'm a maths teacher, so I love a stat. She won all her duels. She won all of her tackles. She made like the most passes or something into the opposition third. I don't know. But
Did you get that off the All for United tweet, Charlie?
Probably, yeah. That's where, kids, the facts are. That's where you get the facts from. None of this made up nonsense. So I went for her. There we go.
I think that's pretty fair.
All about goals. Everyone can do that. Everyone can score a goal from a perfectly timed through ball. We have to run 30 yards around the keeper. Everyone can do that. So I went Maya.
Anyone else agree?
I think you have to be mad to be a defender or a goalkeeper.
I'm going to say Maya as well. I thought she just, again, just solid, right? Just didn't really put a foot wrong. I think even though we were under the cosh a bit in the second half, I don't think that was the defence's fault. I thought that was, yeah, she don't count. I think she's from Guernsey. I thought even though we were under it a bit in the second half, I thought that problem largely originated in the midfield, not putting the blame on any of those players, just more sort of general lack of adaptability. I don't think that was the defence's problems. Yeah, I'll go Maya. I thought she was solid again.
Here we go. 2 shouts for Maya. What are you saying, Barry?
I'm going to give mine to Jay's because I may never get the chance to do it again.
Oh.
Yeah. Has she ever won one, you say?
Leicester in the Cup, surely. Leicester in the Cup last season.
I think she win first game of the... Oh, no, Grace would have won first game of the season. I'll double check that. I'm not sure. When it's confirmed, I'll double check. She definitely would have won one. She has to have in her time here.
I'm sure she
won.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll double check that. Yeah, I think it's a tough one for me. I think it's everyone on the poll is with a fair shot. Someone said earlier, why is Clinton on there? To be fair, I actually thought Clinton was pretty good in the game. I thought, yes, she can be a bit frustrating at times where she holds onto the ball a little bit too much, but I thought defensively, she won every tackle she went into. She created a couple of opportunities as well. I thought she was good. I don't think she was amazing. But what? But there we go. So I think it's between Maya and Melvin, to be honest. But I think you've convinced me to go Maya. I mean, it's not going to matter. Melvin's won the public one, but for me, I would go Maya because I think she kind of kept us in it a little bit in that second half with some key blocks and obviously the tackles as well. So yeah, I'd give it to her. The chat disagree. It was Malard on 54% when it ended. I hate it when it does this. It doesn't bring up the percentages. Malard 53, Letitia 23, Toons 14, Clinton 7 is the splits for this one.
You know what's really weird? Because before you close the vote, the percentages make sense. So they usually add up to 99, but then that could be rounded. If all the percentages are rounded down, that's fine. And then when you then pause it, it does something weird.
I don't know why it does that.
And you lose 3%.
Yeah, I'll double check that one. Come off here. But Melvin did win by at least a 30% margin in the chat, which we kind of expected, to be fair. Which is interesting because that means Maya got it on the panel with 3 of us saying Maya. Melvin's got it in the All for United chat. Tooney got the United one.
If this was Eurovision, Maya would probably win, wouldn't she now? Because in the modern day Eurovision, Isn't there some sort of weird panel that chooses half of the votes?
Yeah, there's a public and a.
Oh, if this was The Apprentice, Mark Skinner would have been fired. I mean, we can't be playing games like this. You know,
Imagine him being interviewed by Claude or that blonde older woman.
I've never seen this show, so I've got no idea what you're on about.
Oh, shut up, Connor.
Oh, I've watched Eurovision show. I don't watch it these days. I have seen it though back in the day,
So
like 2014.
all the things you, Connor, lover of heavy metal, choose to watch at times is Eurovision. Sure,
Unreal, isn't it?
that makes perfect sense.
But you don't like Queen. God, no. Absolutely unreal. He does need to get back to his cartoons, old Johnny Bravo.
I thought you were on about the group cartoons, you know, that made all those cheesy songs back in. You probably don't know, actually.
Now, how can you know? You know, you need boy ones, so I'll let you off. But like cartoons, they were brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, proper cheesy, right? That's like kids disco kind of music. For those of you who know,
people ask you to play that.
But Witch Doctor's the most famous one for people who know that. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, there we go. See, I told you, music. I'm all over.
you could be saying literally anything right now.
You would have heard of Witch Doctor 100%. I would play it.
I've heard of them, yeah, but you could just literally be saying words right now, and I just go, yeah.
If you Google cartoons, Witch Doctor, you'll
know the song 100%. So there we go. See. Hey, if you're talking royal related, Royal Blood are a good band. Yeah, so that kind of defeats your theory there. They were brilliant at download last year, by the way. Anyway, we should probably put this up before we really kind of divulge into all kinds of. Oh my life, what's going on? Was that a long time ago? I'm assuming it was because ABBA.
ABBA about in the 70s, so you'd imagine it was quite a long time ago.
There we go. Yeah, we'll wrap it up there. We'll likely be back at some point during the week, I would have thought. We'll wait to see what happens around Jace. If it becomes official that she's loaned out, we'll do another show. If not, obviously we've got the preview for Sunderland. That will likely be on Thursday because we planned Saturday. So we'll do potentially 3 shows this week to look forward to on that one. If you haven't already, all of the socials, All for United WFC, as Charlie said earlier, where the facts are. When we tweet various things out throughout the days and all kinds of things, obviously we're keeping up to date with what's happening with Jason, a few other things as well, because obviously we get asked a lot about contract renewals and all kinds of things that are going on at the moment, and obviously there's uncertainty around Mark and his position has become towards the end of the season, so that's got to be wrapped up. We'll cover that as it all happens. So all of our socials are All for United WFC, following these amazing people on socials as well, or on X, which is the apps that are on screen. Liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. That'd be greatly appreciated. And we shall see you guys later on in the week.